And that's where we're going to begin today, because our thoughts are with Al in Texas this morning. They're calling for prayers again in another city. 8 people were killed, as you've heard. 7 others were wounded in that mass shooting at a premium outlets mall in the Dallas suburbs before a police officer who happened to be there on another call killed the gunman. Joshua Barnwell was shopping at the outlets with a friend on Saturday, and we are very grateful, and grateful is the word, that he can join us today. Joshua, by the way, is a U.S. Navy veteran and immediately rushed to help the victims. Joshua, it is so good to see you.
Thank you so much.
So I'm thinking, when you went to the mall on Saturday, there's no way you thought you would be sitting here on national TV talking to us about this Monday morning. So take us to that moment. When did you realize it was gunshots and realize we have a problem here?
So I was walking with my friend past to one store, and when we had reached a particular location, I'd heard 2 pops go off, and at that time I was unsure. I had looked over towards the north of me, and I'd seen what looked like, adolescents running. So briefly I thought it might have been a prank. But then nearly instantly after that, the massive rapid gunfire began to occur. And at that point, I just shy of threw my friend behind a concrete pillar, a covering support for the walkway, and got behind there myself and was basically shouting at anybody that was around me to take cover, to get down. And while I was behind this wall, I went to dial 911. I got through to 911 and let them know what was happening. And after I was disconnected from 911, I sent out an SOS message on my phone to my emergency contacts, leaving a voicemail of basically, we're down, we're under fire. Right now, we're okay. Mass shooting, to that respect, was the voicemail that went out when this first occurred.
I know, but Joshua, let's just stop on that for a second. You're in the middle of a mass shooting. For most people, it's just a story we read on the news, and then people go on to the next thing. I've heard you say it's important that people hear the details of how horrible this is, because I don't really think people understand how horrible this is. Can you share that part of the story from your perspective?
So when we initially had believed that the situation had subsided or ended, and I made my way north across the parking lot, because there was just something that I can't explain that was like, I want to go to where I believe this gunfire had came from. And so I was walking towards what would be the H&M store, and I saw the glass that had been completely obliterated and shot out. And that's when I looked over, and there was an area where, a landscaped area right next to that store, and I saw a woman who was literally, folded over, where she had been shot and killed, and basically just fell over, basically where the term, dead where they lie come from. And then after I had noticed her, I then saw another man who was shot in his shoulder that was on the ground and struggling. And next to him was a small child, approximately 7 to 8 years old, who was lying there, and I wasn't sure if she was still with us. Next to her was an adult female who was very heavily wounded. And then draped onto her, close to her head, was another young female, face down. And then not far from her, adjacent to her feet, was another adult male shot. And he was on top of a adult female who was, by all appearances at that time, already deceased. And there was an approximately 5 to 6 year old young man who was just covered from head to toe in blood. And what I would later learn, the blood of his mother and his father. And so I immediately went to the conscious woman who had requested that I attend to her daughter. And I looked over, and their daughter, who appeared almost at that point to already be what we call hypoxic, but started doing chest compressions and mouth to mouth. When I did that, the amount of blood that came out of her backside, because her front side appeared clear, but the amount of blood that came out of her backside was unbelievable. And I knew at that time that she had left us. And I immediately went back. Yes.
Joshua, you were talking about this very coherently. I know that you're a Navy veteran, so you may be used to this kind of thing. But most of us, honest to God, I've never seen a dead body. I've never seen anybody shot. And you certainly don't expect to see this at the friggin' mall. You know, you're going to the mall.
Right.
You don't expect that. So how are you processing this? How has it changed you, if at all? It gives me chills just listening to what you're telling us.
Yeah, I tend to turn to basically to just a pure logic in a situation like this. I try to take out any emotion personally and just let it process through my mind in a logical format, even though it appears illogical, because I find the logic in it, and that's how I'm coping.
Well, now that you're a member of the
club, that's why I'm able to communicate.
Well, we appreciate you sharing what you're sharing, as horrible as it is to hear. And now that you've been through it, what do you think it will take? I mean, it's an ongoing conversation. Nobody seems to know the answer to this question. But now that you've been through it and you've seen it up close and personal.
I don't know if there is any magic pill. I mean, we can speculate till dawn whether or not, I mean, it seems obvious that there's obviously mental health problems that need to be addressed that have been long overlooked. But as far as any other magic pill that's going to cure this, I couldn't tell you, and I wouldn't want to speculate.
Did you think you were safe at the mall when you went out with your friend that morning? Did you think that you were safe, in a safe place?
Of course. You know, I'm at a very nice mall in a very respectable area that's not known for, you know, any acts of violence or anything even remotely close to this. So, yeah, naturally, this was the third stop for the day. We hadn't had any problems. I didn't really think that, you know, anything was going to occur outside of the normal.
Mm-hmm. Why did you want to share your story with us this morning, Joshua?
Well, because traditionally speaking, it's very difficult to get somebody who could not only who was there, who was really there firsthand in the action, but where there is a way to communicate without the emotion, so that people can understand the true depth of the depravity, and my hope in that they have that understanding of really how far and how bad it got, that there'll be a greater emotion, and hopefully with that emotion and that understanding, maybe we can edge, you know, towards some sort of end, you know, a goal to where we can maybe start to stop this kind of action.
Yeah, depravity is the word. How are you changed by this? Did you sleep last night?
I did sleep last night. And I couldn't tell you now necessarily how it may or may not change me going forward. I can't predict that, but I would be astonished if, you know, again, my already normally overly observant self becomes even more observant and more conscious, even more so than I already was and always have been, about my surroundings.
Joshua, thank you so much. I know you rushed in to help people. We certainly appreciate that, and really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us this morning. I'm glad you're all right.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate that.